All right, well, good evening, and welcome to Intro to Routing. Your first experience with Cisco, right? How many of y'all have had messed with Cisco products before? 2, 3, 4. How many are familiar with the command line for Cisco?
Some commands.
1 or half? Okay. Well, you'll be familiar with routing command lines and some switching command lines when we get done with this class. Take advanced, you'll get the other half. Switching and then gateway protocols. Wireless and WANs. All right. A little bit about myself. For the majority of y'all that have not had me, don't know me, I'm Prof. Stokely. You've probably heard me as being the mean instructor that gives 20-page papers. Right? Todd knows that because he... Do what?
It was horrible.
Yeah. I wisened up at the end of the semester after I had to grade 2,000 pages in 2 days. Well, when 140 people turn in a 20-page paper, what do you expect? Didn't think about that end of it. But the students learned quite a bit. And there were some very interesting papers. And some not so interesting. I am a very laid-back instructor. I like us to have fun in class. So I want you to come and enjoy the learning environment. With that being said, I'm not going to sit up here and put PowerPoints on the board and make you have to go through that. Because you'll fall asleep just like I will reading them to you. You're all adults. You had to have some literacy to be able to come into this class. So you should be able to read these. I'm going to briefly cover tonight what we're going to do for the rest of the semester. I want you to have read through chapter 1 in your textbook before Monday night so that we can go over it and talk on an academic level. All right. I'll throw out discussion points. You will give me the feedback back. I will illustrate packet tracers for you. We will go over that, and I'll explain why commands are the way they are so that you can understand that. I want to give you the real-world problems that you will face when you get out of this 100-foot by 30-foot room. I want you to be able to go and be successful. With that said, in order before we can really get started too much in depth, with Cisco you have to understand the basic routing fundamentals of subnetting. How many of you have ever subnetted? A couple of you? Well, guess what? You're going to learn my way of subnetting. And if you learn my way by the end of this semester, you'll be able to pop out an IP complete network address. The first host, the last host, the broadcast, and the next network in about 25 seconds. You won't have to write it down. You can think it and you splat it out. 192.168.10/24. Well, what does the /24 tell me? Anyone know?
That whole subnet.
It's a full subnet. It's a Class C subnet. So that means I'm not subnetting into either or. So my 192.168.1 address is a network address. Right? Well, let's say if I change that from a 24 to a 20. Now what do I have? I have a 192.168.00 network address. And because that 20 identifies it as the fourth bit being the increment bit, you're incrementing by 16s, the first network will go from 0 to 15.255. So it'll be 192.168.00. Your broadcast is 192.168.15.255. Your last host is .254. Your first host is 0.1. 25 seconds. I gave you the first network on a /20. Pretty neat, huh? And no, I didn't memorize that beforehand. I've had a student challenge me one time. He was using an IP subnet calculator from his computer. I did it on the board in 26 seconds. It took him a minute and a half to bring up a subnet calculator through Google to punch it in, and all it did was tell me I was correct. And it's because it's basic numbers. How many of you can count up to 256? Right? Or 192, or 224, 252, 240s, 248s, 254s. I know I'm throwing them all in different order, but those are the only numbers you really have to think of. Those 8 numbers. And it opens all the doors to networking. With that being said, you have until February 1 to complete the subnetting test. There are 4 questions on the subnetting test. Guess what? We're going to do one in class tonight. I'll bring it up. You do not go into the quiz because you only have one attempt at it. You close it out, you're done for. But I'm going to show you how we go through it tonight. Simple enough. So you get 25 out of your 100 points for just showing up tonight. Isn't that cool? And we'll get through when we have PT Skills 1. PT Skills 2, I'll show you where you're going to get those. You can go under your content area. You'll go to packet tracers. Now notice I eliminated 22 and now I've only put 2. Put them in zip files so that you can actually download them. D2L is having funky issues if it's anything other than a zip file, a document file, or a PowerPoint since they upgraded. So it doesn't like PKA files. Our syllabus is also underneath this content area. You can click on here at any time. What we're going to have for this class is easy. You have 23 things to do this semester. How nice is that? 20 packet tracers, 1 subnetting test, 1 midterm, and 1 final. And guess what your midterm and subnetting is? Or midterm and final exam? You're going to be a packet tracer. I'm going to give you 3 days to do them. And as I go over these packet tracers with you in class to help you learn what you're going to have to turn in for these 20, you'll start to get the rhythm after about the first 2. How easy they really are. You just have to understand the language and syntax of writing in the command line. Some of my pet peeves: don't overtalk when I'm talking, because obviously you would have something more important to say than me if you're talking when I'm talking. So I'll shut up and listen to you. You don't want me to do that, because it will embarrass you. Because I will sit and stare at you. Right, Todd? Right, Brent? These guys know me too well. They've already sitting up on the front row. Kevin's really scared of me. He's sitting back there in the back. So you have the 23 things that you've got to be worried about over these 16 weeks. But I guarantee you, when you leave here, it'll be nice and easy for you. All right? Late work. There is none in my class. I don't accept them. When it's due, it's due. I take the same stance as what would happen if you were out at work. You don't show up, what's going to happen? They're going to fire you. You don't show up to do your work, you can get a 0. You show up, do what I ask you to do, you make an A or B. Because you're learning, you're putting forth the effort. And that's what I want out of my students. I don't expect you to be 100+ student, meaning everything's perfect. There may be some things that don't work, or that you couldn't get to work. Don't worry about it. You're learning. That's what you're here for. That's why you're paying $50 a night to be in these chairs. How do you like that? Now, do you understand why I say I don't want anyone talking when I'm talking? Because it takes away your $50 and everyone else that's not talking in class, because you can't hear me because you're hearing them. With that being said, it's usually a pretty quiet classroom until I start joking around and we have fun. Your examinations in this class will just be packet tracers. I will put problems into the packet tracer program, and you will have to fix them, make them operational. And it is, the thing with a packet tracer is it is very repetitive, but it's very easy to catch on to. Okay? I would highly encourage you to go out and see if you can find you a CCNA command line guide. They're out there. You can get them in PDF or you can get them in hardback. Barnes & Noble has them. Amazon has copies of them. They're fairly cheap. I believe it's called the CCNA Portable Command Guide. It's like a little pocket size thing, but it gives you every command you could possibly use in Cisco. The cool thing about Cisco, if I'm going to go, how many of y'all have had Unix or Linux? Okay. You'll see some of the comparisons, like in order for me to get an elevated prompt, I have to type in enable. But I can type in EN for short to get me to the enable prompt. Sounds very familiar to Unix. Linux, doesn't it? Why? Because Cisco is based off a Unix platform. Pretty neat now. If you kind of see the comparisons between Unix and Linux commands and Cisco commands, things are going to start popping into your head real quick. That's why it's unfamiliar to a lot of Windows administrators. They look at it as DOS commands. All right, your grades for the class. You'll have those packet tracers. Now notice, you have bonus points for showing up. Isn't that nice? You know what's cool about that? Is every time you show up for that week, you get bonus points. Now, I know some of you that are online obviously can't show up, but that's why it pays to be in class. You can get an extra bonus point. Let's see, 25 points for packet tracer. Let's say you bomb one. You can make up for it here. Like I said, you show up and you do what I ask you to do. You cannot fail my class. I give A's and B's and I give F's. I hardly ever give a C, hardly ever get a D. Is there any questions on that before I start getting into a couple different areas for you?
So to do those packet tracers, we have to download the packet tracer program?
It's in D2L, but I'm also going to show you where else you can download it. This is packet tracer. You're going to go into vCenter. How many of y'all have had vSphere clients before? Okay. Everyone, your account name, when you need to go to the website, rose.edu/faculty/KDewey. You go to Ken's page and you download the client to your local computer at home. You already have them in class. And then it's going to ask for a host name. The host name is vc.cyber.rose.edu. You can also go to that website and download it. It's going to be Cisco or vCenter Client 5.5. Your username is your first name dash your last name dash capital R, S, and C. And those of you that have not ever had a vSphere account before, your generic password to start with is password1 with a capital P. Now, I will highly encourage you to change that by going into um.cyber.rose.edu. And you can go in there and change your password. You'll just log in like you would with your regular password that I just gave you. You go in and it'll say change your password. You put in your information, it changes the password. And if you have problems with it, come see me and I'll help you change it. Okay? But please don't tell me your password. I had a student come in and say, "Can you change my password for me?" I said, "Sure." Type it in. "Oh no, I'll tell you what to type in." I said, "I don't want to know your password. So type it in and said, yeah, I just changed it to my wife's birthday. Why do I care? I have more privileges than you. I don't need your student account. But it just goes to show that you got to think about information security while you're at this, all right? This is your degree, right? Cybersecurity? How many are networking? Okay, just a couple of you. If you notice, I have 22 routing VMs. I'll call your name and tell you your associated VM number that you will use for the semester, and then I'll open it up and I'll show you what we're going to be doing. All right. Jimmy Collins, you're number 2. Jackson Cornish, you're number 3. Zachary Cowden, you're number 4. Jared Dodson, you're number 5. William Garrett, you're number 6. James Grimes is 7. Kevin Irwin, you're 8. John Jacobs, you're 9. Brent Long, you're 10. Lee McWaters, you're 11. Marissa Pogue, you are 12. Dana Prim, you are 13. Cody Roberts, you are 14. Kristen Ryan, 15. Todd Schoenrock, 16. Sean Sigley, 17. Aaron Smith, 18. Cole Sunby, 19. Cameron Tillman, 20. Anthony Toombs, 21. Darren Van Covering, 22. And Jeremy Belinsky, you're number 1. Those are going to be your individual drives. Okay? All you have to do is you can come over here. You can click power on. All I did was right click on it. Go to power, power on. Right click back on it. Click open console. It'll be coming up in a Windows 7 environment. And as usual, Windows is slow. And the account is user, password is user. All lowercase for the password. And the only thing that I put on here is Cisco Packet Tracer. Okay? This is what your drive will look like. So you can go in, open this up, go into your D2L from inside your drive, and download those Packet Tracer files. This way, so you can use them at home, you can use it anywhere. Okay? For this virtual drive. Well, exception to maybe Todd, since you're on government network. But that's why I have it there. You can also download Packet Tracer from the D2L site for your personal computers if you want to do it that way as well. I'm giving you 3 different options to be able to do your Packet Tracers. You'll have an in-class, virtual machine, or your private drive. Okay? So, you have no excuse not to turn it in. Because you have all-time 24/7 access to it. And then at the end of the day, all you'll do is you just come up, hit Control-Alt, let you out of the VM, click Stop. That turns it off, and then just close it out. That's all you have to do. Now, you will see all these drives, but you're not going to see all this other stuff that I've got up here. If I get a chance, I will put your particular drive in your folder and give you your own access to your folder so that you can only access your drive. But that's vCenter. Any questions on vSphere? Okay. This is Packet Tracer. This is the little program that y'all are going to become very good friends with. All right. I'm just going to open up for giggles. Network Fundamentals. I'm just going to open this one up. You're always going to get this wonderful little activity here. It says most traffic in the network is unicast, blah, 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 blah. all you have to do, it'll give you a task. Verify access connectivity to PC1. You see this little green dot? It's done. Click on PC1, go on the desktop, okay? Notice how it tells you what to do. Step-by-step instructions. Now, you see this little completion rate down here? It says completion 100%. That's what I'm going to grade you on. If the packet tracers are 25 points apiece, I'll take your completion rate divided by 4, and that's how many points you get. So if you get 100, you get divided by 20, or divided by 4, you have 25. 25 out of 25, right? Pretty simple. Any questions on that? Easy way to see that. You see this little button that says check results. You just click on that. It brings you up on this, opening this activity. Tells you what you needed to do. You didn't have to take any action on this one. It's just showing you and familiarizing you with how to open and do things in Packet Tracer. The assessment, you were to look at the network. The network was correct. Connectivity test. If there's particular connectivity test that you run, it will give you all those answers right here, whether they worked or they didn't work. But anytime you have a packet tracer, this whole section right here will say assessment. It'll give you step by step of what you need to do. If you see a red X, that means you haven't done it or it was not done correctly. So you'll go and complete that command. It'll turn green and you get an increased rate. Pretty simple. Like I said, tonight I don't want to confuse you. I'm just going over it. And on Monday night, we're going to sit down and we're going to go over several of these. And we'll start typing in basic commands that you will need for your routers and your switches. Now all I have to do is close. Like I said, you have all these little things that you can go in here and do. Now I want to give you a couple ideas. These are PCs, obviously. This little square box is a switch, a layer 2 switch. You notice when I highlight on here, what does it tell me? I have 4 ports that are up. I have fast Ethernet 01, 02, 03, and 04, right? Those are my first 4 Ethernet ports. What does it tell me? That's going to be a port there, that's a port there, that's a port there, and that's a port there. Got 4 ports up, 4 green lights. Simple enough. Now you're seeing what you should have saw out at Kevin. This is what you should have seen out there. They were in my interim semester and we were running 40 network drops. So they got to actually install the Cisco switch, but they didn't get to do any of this on it. Then you have the router. What does this tell me? Fast Ethernet 00, it's up. Serial 00 and 01 are up. My fast Ethernet 01 is down. Why? 00 to 01 is probably that connection line. Saying these connections are up. Reason I do not like that it was saying that to use the first 4 on this one is technically you would be using this gigabit. If you're going to a router, that's going to be your backbone. You're going to want a gigabit, not just a regular switch port. But anyway, we have 3 routers. The serial connections. This is 3.2, so this line would be your 3.1 and 3.2. You have 3.1 and 3.2. When we get into subnetting, and I'll break it down here in a few minutes, you'll start to see when we get into VLSM. How many of y'all have had intro to networks? Y'all remember subnetting and having to break it down into smaller subnets? See, they have it as a /24. I disagree with that because that shouldn't be a /24. That should be a /30. Why? Because you have 2 hosts on there. You have your .1 and your .2. A /30 gives you a total of 4 hosts. You have your network address and you have your broadcast address. That leaves you 2 hosts you can use. That land drop is 2. You're never going to need any more than that for that point-to-point connection, right? Everyone with me? Dozing off. Mr. Collins back there dozing off on me. All right. Do what?
It's sinking in.
But you're going to be pulling concepts from Intro to Networking. You're going to be pulling concepts even more out of this class. But you're going to have information security concepts that you got to pull into play. Network security concepts you're going to pull into play to think about how to do these. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to reemphasize here in just a minute how to do IP addressing. We'll go over one with you. I'll bring up the question, and I suppose you'll want to see what the answer is, right? Okay. Just for that, I'm going to switch my profile view. So I can go in here and see what question I asked you. Quizzes. Your subnetting test. Okay. Notice we have 7 blocks here. And it says complete the following table of network address for the CIDR block 177.15.69.99. So I'm going to do this simple for you. I'm going to teach you how I do it. If you go under content, click on the subnetting cheat sheet and bring it up. I'm going to build this table for you. We have our IP address, we have our subnet mask, we have our network address, right? Then we have a range. And then we have our next network. Right? We have column A, B, C, D. Everyone's with me, right? What is the IP address? 177 what?
15.69.99.
It's what? 215? Is that what you said?
No, 15.
Oh, 15? What's the next one?
69.99.
And what's my slash?
27.
27. Simple, simple, simple way of doing this. Anytime you have a CIDR number, such as slash 27, how big is an IPv4 address? How many bits? It's a 32-bit address. Each octet has 8. Simple. What is 27 minus 8? 19. What is 19 minus 8? 11. What is 11 minus 8? 3. So I'm going to be, in this column, subnetting into the 3rd bit. Okay? With that being said, what is my 3rd bit increment? 32. Right? You know your first address always starts with a 0. So if I'm incrementing by 32, my next network will be a 32, right? What's my next network? What? Louder.
64.
64. What's my next one?
28.
No. You have 32.
96.
96. Then 128. Okay, well where does 99 fall in? Falls in between these two, right? Correct? So we know where our network is going to reside. Now let me show you an easy trick. We're incrementing in D column, right? Everything to my left is going to be the same all the way down. All these will be 177, all these will be 15, all these will be 69. My first network address, I'm sorry, what would be my subnet mask if we did with 3? You're going to have 255, 255, 255, because those are full addresses. If I borrow 3 bits in, what do I have? I have 128, 192, 224. So if I'm at 224, that tells me I'm incrementing by the 32s. So my first address would be a 96. My next one would be 97. My next network is a 128. So I'm 127. Just like that. You just subnet an entire network. So, what do we have? I did this wrong. The answer is wrong. Ha! It was wrong 1 octet off. So I got to go back and fix that. But it's what happens when you're trying to do it in like 3 minutes for the entire question. But your answer will be 177, 15, 69, 99, 255, 255, 255, 224. Your network address, all these are 177s. All these are 15s. All these are 69s. Any questions? You want me to show you how I did that? Following my subnetting cheat sheet. I'll show you how we build that. Okay. On a subnetting cheat sheet, we put in our IP address that we got, which was that 177.15.69.99, right? We knew that it was 27. /27 put me in the 4th octet. So that means all my changes are going to occur in this octet. There's no octet to the right, so I can ignore this part. This is my interesting octet. Anything to the left, the subnet mask will be 255. X meaning, what is going to be my mask? We went to the 3rd, that's 224. Voila. So in this instance, let's focus on 192.168.10.0, just so you can follow along with this. We have this address. We're borrowing to the 29th, right? What octet does that put me in? What? Try again. D. Remember, the first octet is 1 to 8. The second one, 9 to 16. The third octet, 17 to 24. The fourth octet, 25 to 32. So you're borrowing to the 5th bit, because we did 3rd bit right there at 27, right? So we're going to borrow to the 5th bit. Like I said, you have your 29 minus 8. It gives you 21. Minus 8 gives you 13. Minus 8 in the C column, that will give you 5, right? You have 5 left over. So what does 5 tell me? My network is going to increment by 8s. So every 8 addresses, I'm in the next network. Why would you want to subnet it to have multiple networks? Anyone have an idea?
Keep different groups of people out of each other.
There you go. Keep different groups of people from out of each other. If you're on 2 different networks, you can't talk without going through a router. And if you're inside that same router, you're not going to do it. How many of you have heard the terms VLANs, or virtual networks? Virtual local area networks. All you're doing is a software implementation of this. You're just saying, I want everyone on this network. So, accounting department can't talk to HR. Production can't talk to management, which that'd be kind of screwed up in a business, wouldn't it? Everyone's supposed to talk to management. But you have the fifth place, your mask is going to be what? What's your full subnet mask? 255, 255, 255, because we've done those 3 octets. The 4th octet is the one we're talking about. What'd be the last one? 248. You see how simple that is? I've taken all that math out, so you're not counting all these bits that you learned how to do in Intro to Networking. I know that drove y'all insane, right? So, now that we have our 248, what can we do? Well, if we already had a 0 address here, you can pretty much guarantee you that you're going to be a network address. So we got a 0 here, but we know it's the 192.168.10 because that was the network for that IP address. So if I'm incrementing by 8, does that change it? Oh, okay. If I'm incrementing by 8, what is going to be my next network? Tell me the whole network. Don't be shy. Your whole network would be 192.168.10.8. That's the next network. So we would put that here. The broadcast address will always be one less than the previous or the next network address. So if I'm at 10.8, what am my broadcast? 10.7. If my network address is 10.0, what's my first IP address? .1. Congratulations, y'all just subnetted that. Adam, you okay? Or Aaron, I'm sorry. Aaron, you okay? You just look like you're about to... I was going to have to get Kristen to pop you there real quick. All right. Now, I told you when we were subnetting in the Class D. You can subnet in Class B, or the Octet B, or the Octet C. So if the formula was the same, all I did was put it in here. If this is my interesting octet, Octet B, the octet to the left is the same, all the way straight down. Subnet mask is 255. Anytime you have a subnet mask of 255 in that octet, that network address will come straight down. Does that make sense? Anything to the right of the interesting octet, the subnet mask value will be 0. So you see 0 here and 0 here. If you're in the B, this formula right here, where you have 0, 0, 1, 254, 255, 0, will always be 0, 0, 0, 255, 255, 0. Column C and D will always be that if you have an increment value in B. Always. So you can almost automatically fill in this whole table if you're Class B or Class C. There's only one exception to that rule. Is if this network right here pops this one up 1. That's the only way that A would ever change. Or anything to the left would change. Have I thoroughly confused y'all on subnetting tonight? Oh, it's going to get worse. We're going to talk about it all Monday night. I'm going to give you sheets and we're going to go through it together. Okay? I want you to be able to do it in your head because that's going to make this class just go by so simple for you. Here's the cool thing. Your subnetted test, open book, open notes. But you can't use the IP subnet calculator. I want you to be able to do it. So you can use the subnetting cheat sheet to follow along. All right? And also subnetting in this chapter in the book is like chapter 6. But we're following it down. Like we said, there's the 1, 6, 7, and 8. Pretty cool, huh? And here's that rule exception I was telling you about. If we ended on 10, 255, your next IP couldn't be .256, it has to be 0. So it would bump that up 1. That's the exception to the rule. Does that make sense? If your IP falls in the last network, it'll bump up the next network address. Any questions? Have y'all had any thoughts about what you're going to do in this class, or how well you're going to succeed in this class or not? Y'all afraid now? No? I tell you, give it 2 weeks, and then you'll think this class is going to be one of your easiest classes, because it is. Because we're going to go through those packet tracers. Now, I put all those packet tracers, even the one we just went through, out there so you can look at them. The only ones that are going to be graded is the ones that say Lab 01, Lab 02, whatever the name of it was. Okay? Now notice, you're getting graded for only 20 out of those 22. Did y'all realize that? You get 2 drops. So if you literally bomb one, no big deal. Just keep on chugging. Got bonus points for coming to class. How much easier could I do this without just giving you an A now? Right? Is there any questions? Sure? How many of y'all have me for scripting tonight? Okay. We're going to be back in this room. No questions?
So if we're doing those packet tracers, we can download that from either D2L, the virtual machine.
Well, it's installed on a virtual machine. You can download it from D2L to install it on your local machine. And then all the packet tracers themselves, the individual programs, or individual files that you'll have to manipulate, are in D2L for you to download in any one of the 3. All right? No questions? All right. Be prepared next week. Monday night.